Hello, I'm Russell Klaus. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Oklahoma City. On this program, we're going to take an in-depth look at a neighborhood success story. This story is about the JFK Neighborhood. It's in the northeast part of the city, not far from downtown, between approximately northeast 4th and 8th Streets, and between Martin Luther King on the east and Lottie on the west. The pictures we're looking at represent what the neighborhood looked like in the early 1960s. Small houses on small lots, what could be called shotgun shacks, a lot without indoor plumbing, many had homes with very large families and very few rooms. This is what the neighborhood looks like now. We've had 150 new residential units constructed since 2004, and we're still counting. These are much larger houses and larger yards, typical of what you can find on the fringe of the city. These are homes to families and friends that are forming the nexus of a resurging community for both existing and new residents. The journey to neighborhood success has not been a short or easy trip. On this program, we'll look back at the history of the JFK neighborhood, talk with some of those who've been responsible for what you see today, and then we'll look to the future, see if what has been learned in this journey can be used to help other struggling neighborhoods. Joining me today to discuss the history of the neighborhood is the Reverend J.A. Reed Jr., who is the longtime senior pastor of Fairview Missionary Baptist Church, which is located in the JFK neighborhood, and Mr. Joe Van Bullard, who is the Director of Redevelopment for the Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority. Reverend Reed, you've got a long-time association with the neighborhood. Can you tell us a little bit about what the neighborhood was like back in the 1960s? What it was like living there, what people's expectations were, and how that has changed since then.
I have had the privilege of pastoring in the neighborhood for the past 49 years. I arrived at Fairview in the year '63, and as you know, that the church was located at then what we call 712 Northeast Rhode Island, and it was surrounded by residential houses. At that particular time, we had just a small parking lot, the church, because most of our members or residents of that particular community could walk to the church. And so most of Sunday mornings or even Wednesday evenings, or any other time during the week, you'd see people walking to the church, children walking to the church. And of course, in the late '60s, urban renewal came in and removed practically all of the citizens out of that area. Completely all of the homes around the church were torn down, all of probably from at that particular time Eastern, which is Martin Luther King now, all the way up past close to Dunbar Elementary School. That was on the east and west, and then from probably down on 3rd Street, all the way up to 8th Street on the north, all of those houses were torn down. And so what was left in the community at the time was mostly churches that was left in the community. And of course, then the churches started selling their land and buying land further up north. Our church decided to stay in the area. The reason being is I just sort of believe that there would be some redevelopment in the future, especially if downtown Oklahoma City decided to redevelop, that the northeast area would be redeveloped, and that's exactly what happened. Now, it took a long time. I think they had probably 2 or 3 different plans during that time that never materialized to redevelop. I remember when those first homes right back south of the church were built, which were all right, but they were, to me, smaller homes with small areas, hardly no yard. and some of our folk, some of our members, practically all of our members of our church that was in that area moved northwest, um, and uh, and so most of our members had to drive back to church.
So people were still coming back to the community, though. I mean,
They
had that attachment to the community.
Yeah, had the attachment for the community, but really the only reason to come back to the community was the church.
Right.
Wasn't anything else there outside of the church and the school, Dunbar School to the west and Douglas High School to the east, but wasn't anything else in that area. All of the, all the black businesses we had on 4th Street, on Bath Street, all
the
of
houses left, the community left,
the community left,
the commerce left,
Yeah.
and it sat there essentially vacant for a long period of time.
Oh, what, 30
There was some effort to try and get things going again,
Right.
but it's only been in recent times that has finally taken root, and we're starting to see that change.
And as I stated, we decided to stay there, and we purchased the land from Urban Renewal, and we erected a new sanctuary and everything in that area because of the fact is that we felt that it would redevelop, and that's exactly what's happened. So we are really excited about it. Yeah.
So
like I said, it took a long time. So I mean, something exciting.
It took a long time, and I know that there were mixed feelings about urban renewal in the early days.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Some people were supportive of the changes that were being proposed. Others not so much, and I know that it was a significant disturbance to the community as a whole. Jovan, you weren't at urban renewal at that time, but you're familiar with the early history of urban renewal and what urban renewal was trying to accomplish and how they went about that, and maybe you can talk about what those goals were for urban renewal at that time.
In the early days of urban renewal here in Oklahoma City and also across the nation, it was like Oklahoma City had 3 huge urban renewal projects begun in the mid-60s. Had the JFK residential neighborhood, had the Med Center, which is just to the east of JFK, and then you had Central Business District 1A downtown. Big plans, very well designed, put together and everything. The human element was missing, not only for Oklahoma City, but every large city that had urban renewal projects. They had not thought through the process of, okay, we're going to go in and basically, in some parts of JFK, total clearance, block by block. I mean, nothing was left. Other ones, it was scattered sites, selected, acquisition and demolition of houses that, they didn't meet standards. They, like you say, many people living in 1- and 2-bedroom homes. Some of them didn't have indoor plumbing. But the thing that wasn't part of the solution, that was a challenge that was really never met, was that you rip the heart out of the community.
Right.
And that redevelopment, it was unrealistic to expect that you could get replacement housing back in there, new sanitary housing and everything, without that community just being dispersed, throughout the rest of the city. That was the big thing that was missing. Urban renewal also, in the early days, they made grant applications directly to the federal government, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It did go through the city before it went to D.C. Well, of course, they had to go through regional offices in Fort Worth and then to D.C. But they got their money directly from the feds. And the Housing and Community Development Act of '74, of course, changed all that funding, and that's when the block grant program came in that funded the city. And so the urban renewal authorities, not only in Oklahoma City, but around the world, had to sort of rearrange their whole prospective on how they were going to finish out projects, and then the closeout process that they went through with HUD.
And I think your point about community and that being missing from the equation is really a central theme to what we'll hear in the discussion today, that there was a focus on the physical components of the neighborhood and addressing those issues, but overlooking those community needs. And I think that's the difference in the approach that is being employed today, that this is about rebuilding community. and Reverend Reed, I mean, I'd like your thoughts as a long-term resident and pastor in the community as to what you see happening in terms of the outlook of people, both those who have been invested in the neighborhood for a long period of time, and then those who are moving in. What are they beginning to see in terms of their future in the neighborhood and the neighborhood as a whole?
Well, one thing that I've noticed, of course, that that African American people are moving back in the community, which I think all of us know that during the years of urban renewal and later years, that in northeast Oklahoma City, most of the African Americans were moving out and moving northwest and other areas in Edmond and even out to Norman and all those different areas. What we see now is some of those citizens moving back into the northeast community. And I noticed that there's a number of young couples that are moving into that area, which means that that gives a bright future for the area. I think there are some things that I would like to see done in the area, some needs, that I would like to see happen in the future, because naturally I'd like to see more businesses in that area, maybe what I'm talking about, a nice supermarket and those type of things as the area grow and as the area develop. But we have the citizens, and I noticed that most of the houses that have been built in that area, and I think what you said, 150 units or so, most of them are occupied by African Americans. And I didn't personally expect that. I thought it would be more of a mixed community, but at the same time, it means that that we have citizens that are coming back to northeast Oklahoma City, which will mean much to churches and other community organizations and all of that are located in the northeast community. Already we have at our church we've taken in probably approximately about 10 families that have moved back in that area. Yeah.
Well, that's going to lead us to our next session, which is talking about how the JFK neighborhood has resurged and who's played a role in that. And I'm going to introduce you to 3 individuals who've been pivotal in that role, who are responsible for turning a lot of these empty lots into new homes. So I want to thank you for your time today, and we appreciate your input.
We were living in East Norman, a pretty dense neighborhood area there, and we were again looking to relocate back into the Oklahoma City area, but we wanted an area that had a bit of openness, expanse, where our house would not be as condensely or crowded and sitting just very adjacent to a neighboring house. So when we looked into the JFK area, once again, we were trying to accomplish a few things. One being building where the house would not be as close to another home. Then we were also looking to locate into an area that would be close to my mother because she was moving up in age.
It's a nice neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood. We have friendly neighbors. We have a safe neighborhood. We have a lot of children in the neighborhood. It's close to schools, shops, downtown, hospitals. It's just close to everything, and it's just a really nice neighborhood to live in.
We're literally only a mile and a half from downtown Oklahoma City. I can make it to a Thunder game in about 5 minutes, you know, and that's leaving here and knowing the few shortcuts that I do. You're still going to get bottled in the parking traffic, but I tell you, after the game, I'm probably one of the few people in the city of Oklahoma City that's home within 8 or 9 minutes of making it to my car.
There's nothing like a home improvement project.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with all that leftover paint? Storing items like this can be hazardous. Dumping them in the trash is worse. Fortunately, you have a choice. Paints and other household chemicals are accepted at Oklahoma City's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Facility. Now, doesn't that feel better?
Yeah, but I wasn't done painting my house.
Get more info at okc.gov.
Welcome back to Renewing a Neighborhood, JFK Success Story. We're looking at the resurgence of the JFK neighborhood, a small neighborhood in the urban core of the city, just a few minutes drive from downtown. In the 1960s, this neighborhood, along with a large section of northeast Oklahoma City, became one of the first 3 urban renewal projects in our city. Basically, the project relocated residents living in small, substandard housing. Those houses were razed and the empty lots became available for developers and individuals to build new homes. Some homes were built in the 1970s, but most of what you see in the JFK neighborhood today was built less than 10 years ago. Joining me today are James Williams, Ron Walters, and Hollis Lloyd. These are the developers that began turning those empty lots into new homes, beginning in about 2004. So you gentlemen were all around in 2004. There'd been a long period of inaction in the JFK neighborhood. Several people had tried to do things to make the area come back, and I think it came down to almost a compact between James and Hollis. I know you were involved at that early stage with Bob Daly, who's actually on my staff now with the city's housing rehab program. And you all made a commitment to build that first set of houses at that point in time, which was about 5 houses each. Can you describe to me, James, do you want to begin and talk to me about, you know, what generated this at that time, and how did you go about it? What were some of the challenges? And then what was the outcome for you?
Okay, very good. Thank you, Russell. In 2004, a little bit prior to that, our group, Central Urban Development, we formed a CDC, a Community Development Corporation, not-for-profit, started through our church, Northeast Church of Christ. And we set out to try to fulfill a need in our community of goods and services that was missing, grocery stores and these type of things. So when we started visiting with those entities that could provide those grocery stores and things, it was discovered that one of the drawbacks was that we didn't have enough rooftops. And so with that as a driving force, we looked at the JFK area as a prime area where we could develop a mass number of rooftops to try to offset that, to stimulate some commercial development and provide rooftops that would also bring some economic development as far as on the commercial side. But the challenge was the area had stayed vacant for so long that the myth was, how do we get the appraised values up? That was the driving force, and the challenge with it was the appraised values during that time was somewhere around $50 to $60 a square foot. Well, we knew we couldn't really put up the product that was missing as far as housing was concerned on the near northeast side of Oklahoma City with that type of appraised value. Some of that was due to the blight and the urban sprawl that moved people out of the area. The key was, though, so what we set out to do was try to identify what would the market bear. So that was our driving force to move in and start developing homes, not to become home builders, but to stimulate a synergy that would foster other developers to come in and develop, but also to see about getting the appraised values up. That was the key. We didn't know if the market was there for affordable houses or market rate houses. So we set out to kind of middle the line to start building some houses around 12 to 1,500 square feet, brick, veneer, with quality. We tried to do some sensitive things to new urbanism as far as taking some of the garages off the fronts and come up with a design that would also stimulate and not rob people of their dignity and this type of thing. So we did some quality brick homes of 12 to 1,500 square feet to see what that market would test, how the market would go. What we found out, to our surprise, was that the market really, we got along with Mr. Lloyd, after the products that we developed, the houses we developed,
helped to generate and move that appraised value up to around $92 a square foot. So it kind of set a market for a market rate product opposed to a affordable product during the time.
So Hollis, were you surprised at that response? I mean, you went in relatively conservative and you got an immediate positive reaction. And what did you do after that first small set of houses? I mean, once you got that interest, what did you do then? And who are the people that you're talking to who are moving into the neighborhood? And are they local? Are they? And what's their background?
Well, the first thing that I did, unbeknownst to me, James was working one side of the street and I was working the other side. Shirley Darrell had approached me and asked me, say, Hollis, why don't you come over to the northeast side and build some homes? And I kind of just threw it off, and she says there are some lots down. So I went down and I noticed at the Douglas High School, I noticed at Otwell's grocery store, there were the infrastructure and some of the things were down there. And then I went and talked to Pastor Reed, and I told him what I was thinking about doing. My next step was to talk to Bill Udy, and then I talked to Mr. Stanton Young, and then Joe Van, and I think Joe Van came out later, but that was around 2002. And we started working on some RFPs and some other things that we started working on. Then all of a sudden I found out that James he was coming up the other side of the street. He was doing some things because we met through a mutual banker. And so then that's how we kind of started getting together. My concern was not so much about the square footage, because I felt that with Midwest City, Dale City, and some of the other areas that we could go out and we could prove that we were building quality homes and we could get the same amount of money that they were getting for square footage out there. And my only concern was that the blight in the surrounding areas, the school and some of the other things which I felt that might draw down, you know, or they may utilize to give us a lower appraisal. But that did not happen. We built some very good quality homes. I never did build anything under 1,400 square feet. My homes were, we sold them, started selling them immediately, and we were very, very much surprised, you know, and we got good people in there. Good people, took care of their property, did a lot of things that we were very much pleased with. And so then the neighborhood just began to take off, you know.
So, I mean, Ron, they're on either side of the street, and one can never accuse you of not playing both sides of the street or anything. So when did you develop an interest in that?
He got the gravy.
You know, and I'll take that credit.
You guys broke around, and then Ron came in and got the gravy.
You know, to be honest with you, I was doing some work for the Community Enhancement Corporation, and I was driving down there to pick up a check, and they're just south of the Addition. And you know, I drove in there, and this has been probably 4 years ago. Like I said, I'm the latecomer here, and they had, you know, I saw 5, 6 houses under construction. I drove back by another couple months later, pick up another check, and these houses were finished. And the difference was there wasn't a for sale sign in the yard. There was cars in the driveway. Right. And I said, you know, I don't know what's going on here. And about that time, you know, I made contact with Urban Renewal, and I started off with, they had a list of some people that had asked for one particular block in the middle of the area that wanted larger homes. And I said, well, you know, the lots needed some money spent on them and split up and some utilities put in, this and that. I said, well, give me the list, and we went to work on that. And what we've found is, again, the market was moving itself, a lot of it on what these guys have built, really. The people we've built for, primarily, I guess we've done close to 35 homes down there. And the bulk of what we've done has really been 1,700 feet to 3,000 feet. It's been the bigger houses. We've recently, in the last year, jumped off and tried to build some 1,200-foot houses, and those are actually the ones I've struggled with the most to sell. It's the bigger houses, and what we've heard these other guys talk about, people returning to the area, people that call it home. One of the things that's been interesting to us to learn is, you know, this situation down there is very tight. The homeowners group is super nice people. They're very active. There's a genuine sense of community in the area. And we've had to be more focused on becoming part, you know, of the actual community. You know, we donate to this and that. We're involved in a lot of different things. We help with all the volunteers, the homeowners association, things and all. So it's different. You know, it's sad. I live in an area in Southwest Oklahoma City that you know, I built the homes all around me, and I had some people move in 6 months ago next door to me, and I hadn't even been over there and met them. You know, and it's been so long now, I'm kind of ashamed to even go over there. But this area isn't like that at all. I think everybody knows everybody, and it's like going home.
Well, I went to one of your open houses, and I mean, I immediately noticed that there really was a sense of community there. That there was a real pride in what was occurring, and you all responded to that by building different housing products. You mentioned the larger houses, and I know, James, you've built some pretty large homes over there. And Ron, you've got this new kind of community garden concept that you're in the process of developing right now. How do you see the market has changed from what you first built, and where do you see it going next? I mean, James, you've just finished a much larger project there, and I know that you've got additional ambitions there. So what do you see coming up next, at least in your proposed portfolios?
Well, the last project we finished was the 32-unit affordable housing funded by the tax credit program. What was interesting with what all three of us have done down there, and I don't think you could have really planned this no better, it has become almost like a model community. It's kind of like the communities that is trying to be developed all over the country, that has that good mix.
Right.
And it has a mix of styles, it has a mix of square footage, it has a mix of size, it has a mix of income. So what we did was, we have the houses that was there, we've got the 3,000, 2,000 square foot homes, and we got the 1,500 square foot affordable house. So we got a good mix of a community. So what it says is, right now, even with our affordable product, we still have over 150 applications that we couldn't even address on the affordable end, which is primarily the development I'm speaking of is the fairgrounds that we just finished at Northeast 7th and J.A. Reed Avenue. What we found, we still have over 150 applications that we have in the process for what we would call rent or rent-to-own properties. So we know there's a market for there through our proven development strategies and what we've accomplished. But then we also see a surging of homes that are still selling on the market rate side, you know, like 1,700 square feet and up. So to me, it seems from just the observation is that there is a market for both products. And I think it is continuing. What has happened now is we've ran out of a sizable mass of land to develop. What made JFK so successful is we had a mass of land that we could make enough of an impact that would really impact the area and set a market trend. So I think the market is still strong for some affordable. I think we don't want to saturate with one product or the other, because our goal is to try to blend and mix our community, which provides for a more healthy community and one that can support economic development as far as retail and these type of things. So I see the market still available for both the affordable piece and the market rate piece.
And I assume you all agree with that there's still a significant market there?
I would agree with it too. Our traffic flow we have in that area is double what we get anywhere else. And I agree totally with what James is saying, that the mix of incomes and within, you know, but I think that's the trend of it's hard to refer to JFK as urban lifestyle, but it really is. I mean, 3 minutes you're in downtown Oklahoma City. The proximity is close. A lot of the people we've built for have been employed downtown. They're saving all that gas money.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm spending it.
Yeah.
So Hollis, how would you characterize how this renaissance in the neighborhood has changed the neighborhood, in whether that be you know, crime statistics or, you know, the attractiveness of the area, just the perception of the area as a whole, and then how are you going to respond to this ongoing demand? I mean, what do you see as the challenges for you in terms of being able to meet that?
Well, I think first initially we had some law enforcement officers to build in the area. And they were able to park their vehicles outside, which gave a visual effect that the neighborhood was secure. And then we had a judge to move in. And so we had some other things to happen, which all of a sudden people began to see that these people were moving in. And with the revitalization of Douglas High School through the MAPS program and what have you, then OU kind of encroaching on the west side coming down, people thought, you know, gas prices were rather high, and so people started thinking that they may have to walk to work and what have you. So the interest peaked at that time. People began to really want to move into that area, and so that's one of the things that I've noticed that, and I think that we're saying is if we had the land, then we could really build some nice homes down there. You know, continue to what we've already started, and I think it's a beautiful blend, and the people get along very good. And I have not heard any negative comments about those homes down there. People approach me all the time, say, "If you can get me a lot, will you build me a home down there?" So I said, "Well, we'll look at it," you know. But it really has become a success story.
Can I chime in just a little bit right on that line? You know, the crime rate and those type of things. When we moved in to start developing down there, what we found out is that data that spoke about the crime rate and everything, we found out that was more perception than reality. And Pastor Reed can contest that. He's been down there and bore the burden in the heat of the day. So he has a pulse, and I remember talking to him, and he's been very supportive in the type of housing and bringing it back into a community and a neighborhood. And he has a real good pulse on that. And he never gave me a sense of that. And then our observation, and like I said, I was born and raised in that area years ago, so I just think that, and it proved out that was more perception than anything.
I think that's a really key point, and one of the lessons to take away from our conversation today is we're often dealing with perception rather than reality.
Absolutely.
And it's really important with even just a small kind of catalyst effect that you can change that perception and then start the ball rolling. And you know, obviously you three are going to continue to play a role in keeping that ball rolling, and we really appreciate your efforts. But while we have you here today, there's something missing in the neighborhood that JFK residents would like their thoughts on, and we're going to watch a little short video clip and respond to that.
Now that you know, rooftops have been established, families have come back into the area, one of the things that I think is vitally important that we look at what commercial opportunities might exist. This area historically was one of the most prominent areas in Oklahoma City, and now that it's being revitalized and families have come back in, you know, hardware store would be something that would be needed. Some of the family services, a veterinarian, a pet shop, a place that family services can be rendered and also expounded upon. You know, typically in an area like this, you have your hair salons and your nail shops, but there are other family services as well that are vitally needed in this particular area.
Ron, you're looking at providing some commercial development in that area, and you know, what we just heard is something that I've heard from a number of people. We've got population, both residential and coming out of the health centre, and a shortage of services. So what do you see as the need, and how are you trying to respond to that need?
We are working on a commercial project down there, and we're trying to, you know, get something broke out of the ground. Part of it to help stimulate it off is you know, trying to offer a lower rate. Urban Renewal's been great to work with us on a reduced, you know, land cost to try and create incentive in there. We've done this with the residences also, and we're working to try and get a project funded to get started down there right now. But again, it's just like the houses. There's a tremendous market there. We're not making anything. Everything exists there already. You talked about the ball rolling. This deal to me is like, look, these guys started a snowball, and I've just been running along, throwing a little more on top of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there are challenges, and you know, the retail industry in particular is hard to attract. They tend to come after the market is there. It takes them a while to sort of to cotton on to that there is a market.
The secret's going to be getting that first piece out of the ground and getting that element going.
You have to make it appealing to retailers to come in. You have to have it already set up. You can't bring a retailer or commercial development into an area where the infrastructure is weak, the streets are bad. You know, all these things are missing. So you want to make it appealing to attract the development, and I think that's what the city can do. I think we can start trying to make the northeast side attractive, that would attract development, just like we've done the same philosophy we've done downtown. That's why we're spending all this funds and everything, is to make it attractive, Oklahoma attractive, to attract business and to attract people back into the city. We have to follow that same trend on northeast side of Oklahoma City. And we can't do it in just a little bits and pieces. You have to do it in enough of a scale that really, when the outside commercial people come to look, or somebody come to relocate in that area, they have to see that it's something already, and somebody's already invested, and the city is already invested in it, is doing their part. For instance, we did tax increment financing here. You know, maybe we could do a TIF in there. You know, there's a number of things that we could look at doing to help try to stimulate the economic development as being partnered with the private and the nonprofit and the government segment. Because when we all three partner together, the government, the private sector, and the nonprofit, then the people benefit, and it does the things that makes a neighborhood healthy and functional and a better place to live. So that's just my observation from both a planning standpoint, from a developer standpoint.
We need to deal with the long-range plan. We need to look at OU. We need to look for Presbyterian Health Foundation. We need to look at all those entities who are down there and find out exactly what their plans are. And then I think that we can piggyback on that and start to get an infrastructure down there. We just can't go down there and put a little mom and pops or a little. We got to be able to draw an Albertson, or we got to be able to draw a Walmart, or we got to be able to draw some of those people's interest in order to get that thing going. And that first thing that they're going to want is an infrastructure. They want to know what's going on and what are the long-range plans. And the thing about it is, what we're doing now, we're taking some houses out rather than putting some in. So the rooftops in some areas are disappearing. So these are some of the things that we need to make sure that what's going to happen south of 4th Street. All these things need to be coupled together, and then I think that we can get some builders. I mean, some big businesses, big box stores, or some of those things down there. And I definitely think that will draw the interest back down there.
Well, thank you. Next, we're going to take a look into our crystal ball. We're going to look at what the future is for the area, and what we can do to keep you developing, and how we might be able to provide a model for other parts of the city. So I want to thank you all today. I really appreciate your comments, and I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. It's working.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Me and my wife were living in Moore, Oklahoma, and there was a lot of development down there. Also, I was in law school at the time. It was close to Norman, where I was at OU, and when it was time for graduation, time to move closer to Oklahoma City, where my wife was working and then where I would be working, we were looking around in Oklahoma City, and a friend of mine told me about this particular new development, and so me and my wife, we checked out this area. We checked out some different areas around town, and this seemed to be a good place to move because it's centrally located. It's near all the interstates. It's close to downtown, and we really couldn't beat it. So and it was very economical also. John F. Kennedy Neighborhood Association has been informally around for 25 years, but formally around for about 10 years or so. And the goal of the Neighborhood Association is to basically increase communication and cooperation among the residents, to look out for one another, to reduce crime in the neighborhood, and just generally make it a more peaceful and pleasant place to live. This year we have some particular goals. Is to start our neighborhood watch association, increase our membership, and start a community garden.
In Oklahoma, the sights and sounds of severe weather are all too familiar. Do you know what to do when you hear an outdoor warning siren?
I'm Frank Barnes, Oklahoma City Emergency Manager. In Oklahoma City, the sirens sound to warn you that weather conditions may produce a tornado.
That's your signal to take shelter and seek information about where severe weather could strike.
And remember, an all-clear signal does not sound. Always monitor the weather conditions until the threat has passed.
We are originally from the Northeast community. We grew up just off of 36th and Prospect. We have all of my family here with us. I went to school at Douglas High School. All of my family went to school at Douglas. We left. We moved over to 122nd and off of 122nd and Penn. Because there really wasn't a lot of housetops here over in the Northeast community. We desired to have a home in the community, but there wasn't a lot of places or building establishments or community establishments that were in place before. And so when we heard about what they were doing with urban renewal through a local advertisement in the newspaper from an article from a neighbor just around the corner, Wayne Lindsay, we became very interested. And my sister, who lives just around the corner, she did some research, and they began to build, and then we came over and we started building. And so we're just very excited to be here in the community once again.
One of the things that was most attractive to us is that in this area, when they replatted, they were able to give us a little bit more land. And one of the things that was most attractive is we were almost able to build a 3,000 square foot house. And for the cost of that, for the corner lot that we have, seemed to be so much more affordable for us. And so one of the things that was really attractive to come over to this area, come back to this area I should say, was the fact that we were going to get more house for our money. And in these economy days and times, that was vitally important to us. And we've almost been here now for right at about 5.5 years. And we knew that it was an investment, but it was an investment worthwhile because of what we're actually going to get for our house.
And joining us for our last session is Councilman Skip Kelly, and I want to welcome back James Williams and Jovan Bullard. We're going to talk in this section about what we see as the future for the JFK neighborhood and some lessons that we can draw from that. So let's begin with you, Councilman Kelly, and give us your thoughts on what you see as happening next in the neighborhood. What would you like to see? What do you see the trends going on over there? And
well, thank you, Russell. You know, I really refer to the JFK area as a Renaissance project that has really come true to a development that's really different than a lot of developments you'll find throughout the United States and especially in Oklahoma City. Looking at the historical background of what the area was, and to realize how the redevelopment has come about. And you know, when you look at the future of it, you can only see hope that it will grow bigger and greater with much greater development, both from the retail industry and also from the housing and the various different type of services I think that is there. You know, when one look at the area and the boundary lines from MLK to Lottie, and you go from 4th Street up to 16th Street, you can clearly see the opportunities that could bring so much more into the area. When one look at the development of the First Tee program that anchored their new facility right on the corner of MLK and 8th Street, and you have a brand new high school, Douglas High School. You have a golf course that's within 5 minutes of the development. You have a very enriched grade school, Edwards Elementary School, which also has a very enriched Edwards addition as it relates to the historical legacy of the area. So you have two major two major neighborhoods that have been the beneficiaries of a lot of projects that urban renewal has been part of, the major stakeholders such as the developers have been part of. And I think this is something that is a proven fact that it works. And so if you look at the next 10 years, it can only go bigger and greater. You can't, to me it would be difficult and by a long shot to see a regress of the area, because the people who are moving back into the area have given a historical statement that they remember so much from when they grew up. And a lot of people who are back in the area now, they were in college when their parents moved out of the area. And they come back now because they see the renaissance of a new world and a new development. And you have the connections to the medical complex, the medical campus. You're 5 minutes from the river, and all the new developments is coming from the river. And all of the downtown development, you're literally just 10 minutes at the most from everything that's happening in the downtown area of Oklahoma City.
That's a lot of positives, and I'm not from here originally, but I look at that area and you look at all those different factors that you've just outlined, and it seems blindingly obvious that this area has to have a very bright future. And James, you were one of those first initial investors there, and you saw that. Maybe there was a little more hope in it than perhaps you would have liked, but you made that investment, and that's paid off, and it really is a shining example of what we can do when we work together on things. Yeah. And I know you had some thoughts on some of the other things that we would like to do. How do you think that we can perhaps provide some better leverage from some of those assets that we have in the area, whether it be Douglas or the health center or the proximities that Councilman Kelly had talked about?
Well, Russell, one thing, what has proven with the activities of development that had already have occurred is that it has proven that we have a market, that it's kind of confirmed that there is a market. It is confirmed that we have started to do some of the life enhancement developments like the schools, like some of the sidewalks. And,
so the community is coming. The community is being recreated.
Is being reinvented, but we still are lacking those life enhancements that really makes a healthy community. And I think the momentum that we've created in that area, I think now it's time to come up with a plan. There's no really set plan, a development plan a comprehensive development plan for the area. We're kind of finding a lot and say we'll put a house here, or here's a lot that urban renewal got some commercial, let's do some commercial. But I think if we had at this stage, so it don't end up becoming a hodgepodge or get it out of balance, like we was talking about. Right. One thing about the JFK area, when we named the affordable housing project the Fairgrounds, we did that for a reason. That area used to be known as the Fairgrounds because of its proximity to the old state fairgrounds where Douglas is now. But we separated the word and said the fairgrounds. It's fairgrounds for all people, for all type of development. So I think that the place we are now, we have a very bright future. But if we don't want the future to drive us, but let's drive the future by creating a real comprehensive development plan that can afford itself for developing some of those life enhancement projects that we need. Look, we have the Venture District in the area. We got the Capitol in our area. We got the Health Science Center. And with the trend all over the country where it's a trend to move back into the core of the city, well, this is just an adjoining piece to the core that we're spending all the energies here downtown and near downtown. And this area just butts right up against that. And so but yet and still, it's those little day-to-day conveniences or life enhancements that's just not there, you know. And I think if we had a plan, so if potential developers could look at it and say, oh, here's a whole plan for, I can see that if I move this business here, so this is going to come, and but we got to continue to get the rooftops.
Right.
That's very important.
Well, to that point, you know, urban renewal, Jovan, has had some recent changes in leadership, and there's a new direction being created there in terms of being more proactive about both the disposition of all the lots that urban renewal still retains, but about also looking a little broader than that and building community. And can you describe a little bit about what urban renewal's potential role may be in that respect?
Pardon me, as we go forth, we do realize at the agency that we have cherry-picked off the best available land. We had entire blocks that had nothing on it. As we move just to the north side of 8th Street, we still have some significant grouping of parcels, but as we go further north into up to 13th, as Councilman Kelly mentioned, you get more and more into just single lots interspersed. We've been in discussions and we'll be looking to partner with the city and trying to come up with an idea of how do we get that investment of new residential structures back into the areas, say from 10th Street north. That will be the next chapter. We still have some residential property there south of 8th Street, but it's getting pretty limited. We're taking a look at what could be done on the west side of MLK, Martin Luther King Avenue, just south of 16th Street by the school there as you come on down to 13th. We have a nice available, you know, commercial piece of ground there that runs a considerable distance. So we're all talking about the same game. I agree with James is though we've got to have a plan, and even if we say, okay, urban renewal owns some property on the south side of 4th Street, that would be, you know, very accessible to the neighborhood, accessible to, you know, as people, because 4th Street is surprisingly a very well-traveled street of people leaving downtown and going out all the way to I-35. They go to ML King and then they go north to 10th and then they cut over to I-35. So you're seeing a lot of vehicular traffic there, which I think cries out for trying to bring back the old commercial corridor of Northeast 4th Street all the way back over to Lincoln. That's outside the area we're talking about, but you can sort of start to get the feel for that. But again, residential will be our primary interest in the immediate future. We're looking at joining with the city, what programs we can put together, because we know that, yeah, we've had a wonderful start, but we can't stop now. We've got to keep going.
Well, I'm confident the rooftops will continue to come. The commercial piece certainly seems to be a challenge for us, and what we will need to do, obviously, is to establish additional partnerships, strengthen some of the partnerships we may already have. I think that, you know, the health center and the Capitol are huge players in this game, and we're going to have to reach out there a little more and I think identify what these opportunities are. I think a lot of people have been looking at the world through historic glasses rather than what the future needs to be, and there are opportunities there that perhaps people are not understanding. And I don't know, Councilman Kelly, if you have any thoughts on how we might do that and how we might secure the resources to make some of these things happen, because eventually it does come down to a resources issue.
Well, and I think that, you know, it's all about how we market. I think what we do have with the resources we have as it relates to marketing, naturally you have, you know, the Chamber of Commerce, and you have your local chambers, and you also have, you know, stakeholders. And I think sometimes when the the information is not told in the totality of the environment, people kind of miss out on understanding the opportunities. We have the second largest employer, I think, in the city of Oklahoma City that's anchored literally 5 minutes from this neighborhood community that we're talking about. And what greater, you know, resource to have abutting up against a new renaissance of a development, and they are continuing to develop and grow every year. And so when you look at the mass of people that are there every day, and some of the services that not only the residents in the JFK area need, but they need the same services.
They need the same.
You know, they need, you know, a grocery store. They need a quality place to buy groceries, vegetables, and fruits, and fresh meats, because a lot of them live in the area. You know, the medical campus have housing, and so. And when you look at some of the other services, I've always said, you know, if just a place where you could go and copy a resume, you know, and have the full service of being able to ship something, have the full service of being able to make copies and to have all the needs and services that you would have at your major, you know, chain services that service copying, packaging, and so forth. I mean, just those type of services for one. And, you know, I've talked to several people. I said, you know, if you had to build something in your backyard, you as the owner wanted to do something for yourself, you wouldn't be able to go and buy a hammer, a nail, screwdriver, or any type of hardware. And you have people who have yards, they want to maintain their own yards. They got to go, you know, 10, 15 miles sometimes to travel just to get those basic necessities for household, you know, maintenance. And so I think when we look at the leakage that leaves so much of the area where people go someplace else and buy. I mean, you know, you can get on 10th Street and you can be in Dale City, Midwest City in 10, 15 minutes, you know? And so that's a loss that we have in the city and in that area, that you're losing money that could be generated as tax sales, not only for the area, but for the whole city. And so I think when we look at it from that perspective, we can get a better understanding, and should have a better understanding and appreciation for being more proactive in reference to some of our retail marketers to show them the area and to invite them in and let them understand that, you know, there are people who want to spend money and need to spend money and will spend money, and it makes no sense for them to have to drive to another municipality to give their tax dollars someplace else for the same thing that they could buy here. Yeah.
And we've known there's been a gap there for a long period of time. It's just been, and the city and the chamber have been working together, trying to educate retailers and other sectors of the commercial sector to look at what those opportunities are.
Right.
And I think some of those successes that we're beginning to see now, the new Buy for Less up on 23rd Street, that store is doing extremely well, and they're illustrating that if you build it, that there is a market there that will come. And we've just got to continue to hammer away at identifying that opportunity exists.
And I think one of the other things that we fail to recognize that has been a major enhancement, I think, in reference to some of the development, is that we've been fortunate to have a publishing company, a publisher who has also been a part of the groundwork as it relates to urban renewal, and that's Mr. Russell Perry. And he has been able to use his publishing company, I think, in a way that enhances the presentation of the land in Northeast Oklahoma City, which, you know, you have to use every resource that you have, and I think that's been a major resource also in reference to help stimulate this growth in the Northeast Oklahoma City JFK area also. And so I think we just have to just go to every resource that's available and say, you know, if it's about marketing the area, if it's about showcasing it in the newspaper, on the radio, in the, you know, in the different forums that you have in the community, from your Chamber of Commerce to all the other publications about the pride and joy of your city, then this is a pride and joy of part of Oklahoma City. And I think when you do that, your major retailers, they don't look at it as a little corner of your city. They look at it as something, if you pride it and put it out and wave it to the rest of the city, then they say, hey, you know, there's something there and we ought to be a part of it, and we can be a part of it. And, you know, because people who need a grocery store and people who need a drugstore are all over the city. And so if you're in the JFK area and you have a need to fill a prescription, why should you have to travel 5 miles or, you know, and only have one choice? You know, so, and some of those things are in the makings as we talk. But, you know, it is the needs of service that I think is lacking, and I think it's just the way we're going to have to change our marketing and our solicitation to the various retailers to give them, you know, either whatever incentives that can be offered from, you know, whatever resources that we have, from grant funds to whatever for infrastructure. And I think we'll see it happen in the very near future, you know. And so, you know, all I can say is it's been a great turnaround, and by the grace of God, because there wasn't a plan. I mean, the renaissance that we see today, it was done without a plan. Now, can you imagine if you have a plan now, if you implement a plan, how much better it can be? Because this started with just somebody said, you know, hey, urban renewal, you got a few lots. You got a highway patrolman that comes in and says, hey, you know, y'all got some lots over here. I'd like to build a house. And it gets worked out. You get a police officer come in. You know, they do the same thing. And so all of a sudden you have people who, most people would thought, well, why would you build over there? And then it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And like the Temptations say, just keep on growing. And now here we are talking about the success of something who was just by happenings that people said, you know, I'll take a chance at this. I'll take a chance at that. And so now if we put together this marketing plan, we ought to be able to bring all the other, you know, benchmarks into this whole project and say, you know, what a successful, you know, renaissance we really do have, you know.
Okay, there's one other question I wanted to ask, and which is, I think, is a really key thing to take away from this discussion. You know, JFK has been extraordinarily successful in a very short period of time. You know, since 2004, we've built 150 houses, and that momentum is continuing. What are the lessons that we can take from JFK's experience that we might be able to translate into other struggling neighborhoods within the city? Councilman Kelly, do you have thoughts on that?
Well, I think the first lesson would be if you have people that are in the area, in the community, that have a vision and have hope and have faith. You know, I think this all came about, as we talked about earlier, just because somebody had faith and hope that, you know, it would work for them. And once someone else saw that it worked for them, you know, here you have another development and you have another developer. And the unusual thing about the JFK area is that, you know, sometimes when people don't come together as a whole, you find individuals doing things in different directions, but it ultimately is for the whole common good of one major project. And so when you had the development that began, you had Mr. Williams had an organization, you had Mr. Lloyd, and neither one of them had really had a conference, but they were both trying to do the same thing. And I think when you can bring people together and have that common bond about what the future lies and what they want and what their vision is, I think you can see a much bigger you know, development and a much smoother you know, transition of it, you know. So it's hard to say what it would take, but you got to have faith and you got to have hope and you got to have that vision. And so I think that's probably the beginning of any, you know, neighborhood and development. You know, I think that's what, you know, if you went out here and bought 50 acres of land and it was just raw land, and you say, well, I'm gonna make a little development out of this. It's all a vision. You don't know whether it's gonna work. It's faith that you you know, you can build on your faith. And so
I think that's well stated, and there are extreme examples around the world. I'd say Las Vegas is one.
Right.
James, what would be your opinion?
Well, speaking from our faith-based initiative that we started with at Northeast Church of Christ, is piggybacking on what Councilman Kelly said. It's about vision. We had a vision, and it's a saying in the Bible says, "A people without a vision perish." And so if you've got to be able to see it before you see it. So if you don't see it before you see it, you'll never see it. And that's what the vision is. And I think that coupled with vision, you got to have perseverance. Well, you got to stick with it, and you got to stick with it when.
Well, I consider myself a man of vision, so I should never perish. Is that Joe Van, what would be your thoughts on that?
To add just a little bit more, but certainly what both the councilman and the planning commissioner say is very true. And you got to look for that partnership. Of course, you want to have the partnership between the people who want to stay in that neighborhood and improvement. They've got to come together. And if they do have a faith-based organization that they can partner with, they certainly need to go down that avenue. They need to partner with Renewal and the city. City and Renewal have got to be together on the same page, because it's not easy. I mean, James's early work, I mean, it didn't all just like fall into place, click, click, click. And so you got to dust yourself off and start back over again. But you really have to have strong partnerships. And so whatever the public can bring to the table to make it work in terms of, and we all know that public resources are going to be much more limited in the future, especially from the federal level. Right. I mean, the budgets up there are being cut drastically. But still, that if there's a strong enough coming together of people with one good solid stakeholder group that you can build on. Yeah.
Well, I think we've seen a lot that's positive today. I want to thank you all for watching our program. I hope we've sparked some interest in how the redevelopment process happens and how you may be able to start your own neighborhood success story. And we're going to put some information on how you might be able to do that. We have some telephone numbers and websites that you'll be able to access to find out more about what we do. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for participating.
Thank you,
Enjoyed
Russell.
it.
Thank you, Russell.